Last week, I received news from a contact who is friends with one of the biggest billionaire shipping families in the world. He told me they had no ships at sea right now, because operating them meant running at a loss. This weekend, reports are circulating saying much the same thing. The North Atlantic has little or no cargo ships traveling in its waters. Instead, they are anchored, unmoving, empty. Commerce between Europe and North America has literally come to a halt. For the first time in known history, not one cargo ship is in transit in the North Atlantic between Europe and North America. All of them, hundreds, are either anchored offshore or in port. Nothing is moving. This has never happened before. It is a horrific economic sign, proof that commerce is literally stopped. And it appears to show no ships in transit anywhere in the world. We aren't experts on shipping, however, so if you have a better site or source to track this apparent phenomenon, please let us know. If true, this would be catastrophic for world trade. Even if it's not true, shipping is still nearly dead in the water according to other indices. The Baltic Dry Index, an assessment of the price of moving major raw materials by sea, was already at record all-time lows a month ago. In the last month it has dropped even more, especially in the last week. Factories aren't buying and retailers aren't stocking. The ratio of inventory to sales in the US is an indicator of this. The last time that ratio was this high was during the Great Recession in 2016. Hey, what recovery? The economy is taking on water at a rapid rate. The storm has been building for some time, actually. Not so long ago, there was a spate of reports that the world's automobile manufacturers were in trouble because cars were not selling and shipments were backing up around the world. The past several years, one of the topics covered in detail on these pages has been the surge in such gimmicks designed to disguise lack of demand and end customer sales, used extensively by U.S. automotive manufacturers, better known as channel stuffing, of which is particularly guilty and whose inventory at dealer lots just hit a new record high. The world's economy seems in serious trouble. You can't print your way to prosperity. All you are doing is hollowing out your economy, draining it. And sooner or later it's empty and you have to start over after a good deal of crisis and chaos. It's no coincidence that China is struggling desperately to contain a stock implosion. Reportedly, banks have been told they are forbidden to buy US dollars and numerous Chinese billionaires have gone missing. And the markets have just opened on Monday and are again deeply in the red. Here at the Dollar Vigilante we've specialized in explaining the reality of the global faux economy and why it's important that you not believe mainstream media lies. Every month we publish at least 2 editions of our TDV newsletter that, as our subscribers are aware, has predicted much of what is going on today. If you're not a subscriber, you ought to take advantage of our current low rates before they go up on February 1st. You can subscribe here. And set aside time for our one-day TDV Internationalization and Investment Summit that features some of the most insightful financial minds on the planet, including Ed Bugos, our extraordinary, in-house gold analyst and Austrian economist. I'll be there as well as a presenter and also to answer your questions about our upcoming Super Shmita trends and Jubilee year analysis. We've gained literally thousands of subscribers because of the accuracy of our forecasting and investment recommendations over the past year. Now is your chance, perhaps a final one, to get out in front of the chaos racing toward us by attending our one-day investment summit, followed by the 3-day Anarchapulco conference. I guarantee you'll come away refreshed, invigorated, and armed with insights to help you cope with what's going to be a very volatile and challenging 2016. In the meantime, keep your eye on this shipping story. If it is true and worldwide shipping is disastrously foundering, it'll only be a matter of days before grocery store shelves will reflect that with increasingly bare shelves. Are people upset now? Just wait. Interruptions in goods and services, most critically food, almost happened in 2008 during the Great Financial Crisis. For 3 days worldwide shipping was stranded due to shipping companies not knowing whether or not the receiver's bank credit was good. That crisis was staved off due to a massive amount of money printing. It was a temporary stay of execution, like bailing out the Titanic with coffee cups, however, and one that may reach much larger proportions in 2016. Sailors watch the weather to see if it is safe to set sail. Investors should be watching the economic climate with the same intensity. We are already sailing through very stormy waters. The shipping industry is facing its worst crisis in living memory as years of rapid expansion fueled by cheap debt have coincided with an economic slowdown in China. We are now at the stage where people are struggling to remember an era when it was this difficult. We've gone through what it was like in the 90s, the 80s and the 70s, so expressions like living memory start to apply, said Jeremy Penn, the chief executive of the Baltic Exchange in London. The Baltic Exchange has set shipping rates for more than 2.5 centuries, and the situation its members now face is grim. Ship owners are facing the tough decision of whether to just drop anchor and hope it gets better, Penn added. Fears about the global economy have seen the Baltic Dry Index fall by more than 20% this year, to 369, its lowest level since records began in 1985. The Baltic Dry, which is compiled by the exchange, gives an indicator of the cost of shipping dry bulk goods such as coal, iron ore, grains, and finished goods such as steel, but it is fated for its apparent ability to predict the world's financial fortunes. The immediate problem has been the slowing of the Chinese economy. The world's largest consumer of commodities has been the driving force behind the shipping trade for the past 2 decades. But much of the pain is also self-inflicted. Shipping has undergone a period of massive growth, fueled by cheap debt and steady demand. Shipping fleet rapidly expands. The world fleet doubled in size from 2010 to 2013. At the same time, China doubled its shipyard capacity and took huge orders for new ships as it sought to control the commodities trade. The dry cargo market was used to growth approaching 10% for quite a few years on the trot, said James Kidwell, chief executive of the London-listed broker Braemar Shipping. All of a sudden you've hit a market that's gone flat. That is a radical change. If you've got more ships than there are cargoes, then freight rates are going to be weak. It's that simple. The impact on ship owners' profits has been drastic. The average charter rate for the largest Capesize vessel, named that because they are too large for the Panama Canal and have to round Cape Horn, has fallen to about $2,700 a day. By contrast, they had traded within the range of $15,000 to $25,000 during the past 2 years and briefly touched $250,000 during the mania of 2008, according to Penn. Many trips are now loss-making as the cost of running a Capesize vessel, which at up to 340 meters is equivalent of almost 4 football fields in length, can run to $7,500 a day. Drowning in debt. In a normal market, the rational decision would be to remove loss-making ships from the fleet, but this is anything but a normal market. The world shipping fleet is drowning in debt. Kidwell describes how ship owners who have financed their fleets with 60% debt and 40% equity have seen that equity become worthless. Meanwhile, the banks that provided the debt won't pull the plug, as they would be forced to recognize the losses. Instead, they accept that they won't have debt service, and they are forced to wait and see whether the ship owner can survive until the market recovers. At some point they might be able to sell the vessel at a better price. Zombie ships set sail. What is damaging shipping is a zombie fleet, which accepts freight at maverick prices just to keep going, Kidwell said. A zombie ship is one that can just about repay interest on its debts but has no hope of repaying the capital. The situation might be about to get a lot worse for loans to the shipping industry. The calculation of loan repayments and the rate of interest depend on the historic residual value of the ship at the end of the life of the loan. Kidwell said a 5-year-old Capesize vessel was sold for $19 million in recent weeks, 40% below the normal listing price for a vessel that age of about $33 million, and less than half the $48 million cost of a new ship. The scrap value of ships has also plummeted as China pumps new steel onto world markets. The collapse in prices for second-hand vessels will blow a hole in the balance sheet of any bank or individual that is sitting on those loans. The UK may no longer be a huge player in the ownership of fleets, but British banks such as RBS have total loan exposures of £8.3 billion, and Lloyds Bank also provides finance to the industry. London is still the centre of the world for shipbroking through companies such as the FTSE 250 listed Clarkson and the smaller Braemar Shipping. London also retains its position as one of the world centres for marine insurance, with Lloyd's of London writing £2.1 billion in gross written premiums in 2014. It is not all bad news for the brokers, however. The glut of oil on world markets has led to one of the busiest tanker markets for years. The prospect of Iran entering the fray with 41 additional tankers could bring further lucrative commissions after the U.S. lifted its 40-year oil embargo this month. But the outlook remains bleak for the owners. Oil price collapse. At some stage, ship owners will be forced to take their ships out of the market. This will be a slow process, Penn warns. In the old days you could lay up ships fairly easily, and dramatically reduce costs, but these days with all the modern technology and electronics on board it is much more difficult, Penn said. We haven't seen that cold lay-up that we have seen in past recessions, he added. Ship owners and people who are still in the market presumably still think there is hope, and that the market turnaround will come before they are completely desperate, Penn said. But there is widespread depression in the market at the moment, saying much the same thing. The North Atlantic has little or no cargo ships traveling in its waters. Instead, they are anchored, unmoving, empty. Commerce between Europe and North America has literally come to a halt. This never happened before. It is a horrific economic sign, proof that commerce is literally stopped. And it appears to show no ships in transit anywhere in the world. We aren't experts on shipping, however, so if last week, I received news from a contact who is friends with one of the biggest billionaire shipping families in the world. He told me they had no ships at sea right now, because operating them meant running at a loss. This weekend, reports are circulating. For the first time in known history, not one cargo ship is in transit in the North Atlantic between Europe and North America. All of them, hundreds, are either anchored offshore or in port. Nothing is moving. This has